Listen up, because I'm going to give you the cold, hard truth, straight from the mind of a man who understands how attraction really works. You want him to miss you every day? It's not about texting nonstop or begging for attention. That's weak. The one thing that makes a man miss you every single day is your unwavering self-worth. Let me break it down for you. Men are hunters by nature. When something valuable isn't fully in their grasp, when it's not given to them on a silver platter, they crave it. They chase. But if you're always there, always available, always needy, guess what? You become common, you become boring, you become replaceable. When you own yourself, when you walk with confidence and hold your standards high, you instantly become rare. A man can't stop thinking about someone who isn't desperate for him but chooses to spend time on herself instead. That mystery, that independence. Regret is an inescapable part of the human condition, woven into the very fabric of our existence. From the moment we become self-awareness, we begin to evaluate our choices, actions, and their consequences. This evaluation often leads to the painful recognition that we might have acted differently, that we missed opportunities, said the wrong thing, or failed to take necessary risks. Regret emerges naturally because life is inherently complex and uncertain. We are constantly navigating between multiple possibilities, each with its own potential outcomes. The choices we make are rarely clear-cut, and the awareness of alternative paths we did not take is a source of psychological discomfort. This discomfort is not merely incidental, it serves a crucial function. Regret compels us to reflect deeply on our past behavior, encouraging introspection and self-awareness. It challenges the simplistic notion that life is a linear progression and reminds us that our existence is marked by contingency and imperfection. Through regret, we acknowledge that our decisions are meaningful and that the direction of our lives depends on how we choose to act. This acknowledgement is painful precisely because it confronts us with our fallibility and the finite nature of time. Moreover, regret connects us to a shared human experience. Everyone, regardless of background or status, encounters moments of remorse or sorrow over past choices. This universality highlights the existential tension between freedom and limitation, the freedom to choose and the limitation imposed by consequences. Regret, therefore, is not simply an emotional burden. It is a manifestation of our consciousness grappling with responsibility and the moral weight of our action. In this way, regret is fundamental because it underscores the seriousness with which we must approach our lives. It insists that our actions matter, that life is a series of meaningful decisions, and that to be human is to wrestle continuously with the outcomes of those decisions. Regret often arises from a profound sense that we have not lived up to our own potential, that there exists within us a version of ourselves we failed to realize. This feeling is rooted in the tension between who we are and who we believe we could have been under different circumstances or choices. It reflects a disconnect between our ideals, aspirations, and the reality of our actions. When we look back on our lives, the moments that haunt us most are not always the mistakes or failures themselves, but the opportunities where we compromised, settled for less, or avoided the necessary struggle to grow. This unfulfilled potential is painful because it represents a lost possibility, a path not taken that could have led to a more meaningful, authentic, or accomplished existence. The human psyche is wired to seek growth and self-actualization, and when this drive is stifled or ignored, it creates a void that manifests as regret. It is this internal gap between what we imagine as our best selves and the life we actually lived that produces a deep dissatisfaction and sorrow. Moreover, regret tied to unfulfilled potential carries with it an element of responsibility. Unlike regrets based purely on external circumstances, this type acknowledges that our choices or lack thereof played a crucial role in shaping the outcome. It invites an honest reckoning with our own agency in the ways in which fear, procrastination, or complacency hindered our progress. This realization can be unsettling, but it also opens the door to transformation. By recognizing the areas where we have fallen short, we gain clarity about what needs to change to prevent future regrets. Ultimately, regret stemming from unfulfilled potential is not merely a source of pain, but also a powerful motivator. It challenges us to pursue our capabilities with greater courage and determination. It reminds us that the cost of inaction is far greater than the risks of striving toward who we could become. Taking personal responsibility is the most effective way to overcome the pain of regret because it shifts us from a position of helplessness to one of empowerment. Regret often feels overwhelming because it focuses our attention on past mistakes or missed opportunities, things outside of our immediate control. However, when we accept full responsibility for our actions and their consequences, we reclaim our agency and create the possibility for change. This acceptance is not about blaming ourselves harshly or fostering guilt, but about honestly acknowledging how our choices have shaped our lives. It is through this clarity that we gain the power to act differently moving forward. When we own our decisions, we stop being passive victims of circumstance and begin to actively shape our destiny. This mindset fosters growth because it requires us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves without avoidance or denial. Personal responsibility also cultivates self-respect and integrity. By standing accountable for our past, we demonstrate to ourselves and others that we are capable of learning and evolving. This not only reduces the grip of regret, but also strengthens our character, making us more resilient to future challenges. Moreover, accepting responsibility enables us to break the cycle of regret by focusing on what we can control, the present moment and future actions. Instead of being paralyzed by what cannot be changed, we direct our energy toward productive efforts that align with our values and goals. This shift in perspective transforms regret from a destructive emotion into a constructive force that motivates improvement. In essence, personal responsibility is the antidote to regret, because it transforms suffering into empowerment. It teaches us that while we cannot rewrite the past, we can always choose how to respond to it. This choice opens the door to healing, growth, and ultimately a life lived with greater purpose and less remorse. Regret functions as a powerful internal signal that alerts us to the need for change in our lives. It is more than just an unpleasant emotion. It acts as a psychological compass pointing toward areas where our current behaviors, decisions, or attitudes have led us astray from our values or goals. When we experience regret, it is an indication that something within our life's trajectory is misaligned, prompting us to pause and reconsider our path. This discomfort is essential because it prevents complacency and stagnation, pushing us toward growth and transformation. This signal is particularly valuable because it provides feedback that is often difficult to obtain otherwise. Life rarely offers explicit directions, and we often learn through trial and error. Regret shines a light on past mistakes or missed opportunities, allowing us to analyze and understand what went wrong. It forces us to engage in reflection, a process that encourages self-awareness and insight. By paying attention to regret, we uncover patterns of behavior or decision-making that do not serve our best interests, giving us the chance to correct course before further damage occurs. Moreover, regret motivates us to break free from harmful habits or destructive mindsets. Without this emotional cue, it would be easy to continue down unproductive or damaging paths indefinitely. The pain of regret, while difficult to endure, can therefore be seen as a necessary discomfort, a catalyst that propels us to make meaningful changes. It challenges us to develop new skills, adopt healthier perspectives, and pursue more fulfilling goals. Ultimately, regret's role as a signal for change highlights its constructive potential. When we learn to listen and respond to this inner warning with courage and determination, regret becomes an instrument of personal growth. Instead of being a source of despair, it transforms into a guiding force that helps us build a better, more intentional life. The pursuit of meaning holds far greater significance in human life than the mere pursuit of pleasure, and understanding this distinction is crucial in grappling with the roots of regret. Pleasure by its nature is often fleeting and superficial, tied to momentary sensations or gratification that rarely satisfies deeper psychological needs. When individuals prioritize immediate pleasure over meaningful goals or values, they risk constructing a life that feels hollow or unsatisfying in the long term. This imbalance frequently leads to regret, because, despite temporary enjoyment, there remains a persistent sense that something essential is missing. Meaning, in contrast, is grounded in purpose, responsibility, and connection to something larger than oneself. It requires effort, discipline, and sometimes sacrifice, but it provides a framework that sustains psychological well-being and resilience. Meaningful pursuits engage the individual's core values and identity, fostering a sense of coherence and fulfillment that pleasure alone cannot achieve. When people orient their lives toward meaningful goals, they build a legacy that endures beyond transient experiences, creating a deeper sense of satisfaction and self-worth. The tension between meaning and pleasure reflects a fundamental human challenge, balancing immediate desires with long-term well-being. Often regret arises when we look back and realize that we chose convenience or short-term satisfaction at the expense of our higher aspirations. The regret here is not simply about missed pleasures, but about neglecting the growth, relationships, and contributions that give life depth and significance. Emphasizing meaning over pleasure reshapes how we approach decisions, encouraging us to prioritize what truly matters rather than what feels good in the moment. This approach reduces the likelihood of regret by aligning our actions with our authentic selves and long-term flourishing. In essence, meaning provides a compass that guides us through life's complexities, helping us build a life rich with purpose rather than empty indulgence. Time is the most finite and precious resource we possess, and the awareness of its limitation profoundly shapes the experience of regret. Every moment that passes is a moment we can never reclaim, which means the opportunities available to us are constantly dwindling. This scarcity imbues our choices with tremendous weight, because each decision potentially closes off alternative paths. Regret often arises when we look back and recognize that we failed to seize a critical opportunity, or wasted time on pursuits that did not align with our deeper values or goals. The limited nature of time creates an urgency that is difficult to ignore. Unlike material possessions, time cannot be stored or replenished. Once lost, it is irretrievable. This makes procrastination, hesitation, or avoidance especially costly. When we postpone action or avoid difficult decisions, we risk missing chances that may never return. The pain of regret is often tied to this realization that we let time slip through our fingers without making the most of it. Moreover, limited opportunity means that the stakes of our choices are high. Life is a series of trade-offs, where committing to one path often means forgoing others. This creates a profound tension because we cannot explore every possibility or correct every mistake. Regret highlights this tension by reminding us of the paths not taken and the potential that remains unrealized. Understanding the finite nature of time and opportunity can motivate us to act with greater intentionality and presence. It encourages us to prioritize what truly matters, to take responsibility for our choices, and to embrace the discomfort that sometimes accompanies growth and change. By recognizing that our time is limited, we cultivate a sense of urgency that can transform regret from a paralyzing emotion into a catalyst for purposeful living. This awareness pushes us to live more fully and make decisions that minimize future remorse. Integrating past mistakes is a vital process in overcoming regret and fostering personal growth. Rather than allowing mistakes to remain sources of shame or self-condemnation, embracing and learning from them transforms regret into a constructive force. This integration requires honest self-reflection and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about one's actions and their consequences. It involves acknowledging errors without denial or excuse, which is essential for developing a clearer understanding of how certain behaviors or decisions led to undesired outcomes. When we integrate past mistakes, we extract valuable lessons that inform our future choices. This process helps us identify patterns, such as recurring habits, flawed thinking, or emotional triggers, that may have contributed to our failures. By bringing these to light, we gain the insight necessary to alter our behavior, avoid repeating the same errors, and build healthier, more effective strategies for navigating life's challenges. Moreover, integrating mistakes fosters resilience. Accepting that imperfection is a natural part of the human experience reduces the fear of failure and encourages a growth mindset. Instead of being immobilized by regret, we become empowered to move forward with greater wisdom and confidence. This acceptance also cultivates self-compassion, allowing us to treat ourselves with kindness rather than harsh judgment, which is crucial for emotional healing. Importantly, integrating past mistakes strengthens our sense of responsibility. It shifts the narrative from victimhood to active authorship of our lives. We begin to see mistakes not as fixed failures, but as necessary steps in a lifelong journey of development. This perspective encourages ongoing self-improvement and humility, both of which are key to achieving lasting fulfillment. In sum, the integration of past mistakes is not about erasing regret, but transforming it. It enables us to convert painful experiences into sources of insight and growth, ultimately fostering a more resilient, self-aware, and purposeful existence. Human life is a constant negotiation between order and chaos, and understanding how to balance these forces is essential for managing regret and fostering personal development. Order represents structure, predictability, and stability, elements that give our lives meaning and coherence. Chaos, on the other hand, embodies uncertainty, change, and the unknown, which can be both threatening and a source of potential growth. Regret often emerges when this delicate balance is disrupted, either when excessive order leads to rigidity and stagnation, or when overwhelming chaos results in confusion and despair. Striking the right balance means embracing enough order to provide a foundation for purposeful action while remaining open to the challenges and transformations that chaos brings. Too much order can trap us in routines or fixed patterns that limit our growth, causing regret when we realize we have missed opportunities to evolve. Conversely, too much chaos without guiding structure can leave us feeling lost, making poor decisions that later fuel regret. Navigating this balance requires courage and adaptability. We must develop the discipline to create habits, set goals, and establish boundaries that bring order to our lives. At the same time, we need the flexibility to face uncertainty, take risks, and learn from unexpected experiences. Regret often arises when we resist the necessary upheavals that chaos demands, or when we cling too tightly to comfort zones that hinder progress. By accepting that both order and chaos are indispensable, we cultivate resilience and wisdom. This dynamic tension pushes us to continuously adjust and refine our approach to life. Regret in this framework becomes a signpost that alerts us when we have leaned too far in one direction. Learning to listen and respond to these signals helps us create a life that is both stable and vibrant, grounded yet open to possibility. Ultimately, balancing order and chaos empowers us to live more fully and intentionally, reducing the regrets that come from imbalance. Facing regret courageously is a profound act of strength that many shy away from, yet it is essential for healing and personal growth. Regret can be a heavy burden, often accompanied by feelings of shame, guilt, or sadness, which naturally lead to avoidance. However, avoiding or suppressing these feelings only prolongs suffering and prevents us from learning the necessary lessons that regret has to offer. To face regret courageously means to confront these painful emotions directly, to acknowledge the mistakes or missed opportunities without denial or self-deception. This courageous confrontation requires honesty with oneself, which can be uncomfortable but is ultimately liberating. By openly examining the sources of our regret, we gain clarity about our values, priorities, and behaviors. This self-awareness is the foundation upon which meaningful change is built. When we refuse to run from regret, we reclaim control over our narrative, transforming regret from a source of passive suffering into an active catalyst for transformation. Moreover, facing regret courageously helps to develop emotional resilience. It teaches us that pain, while difficult, is not debilitating or permanent. Through endurance and reflection, we build the capacity to withstand adversity and emerge stronger. This process also fosters self-compassion, allowing us to treat ourselves with kindness despite our imperfections, which is crucial for psychological well-being. Importantly, courageous engagement with regret models accountability and maturity, setting a precedent for how we handle future challenges. It encourages a mindset that embraces responsibility rather than blame, growth rather than stagnation. Rather than being trapped in cycles of rumination or avoidance, we move toward resolution and progress. In essence, facing regret courageously is not about erasing the past, but about embracing it with openness and integrity. It transforms regret from a paralyzing force into a guiding light, helping us navigate toward a more authentic, purposeful life with fewer regrets in the future. Regret serves as a profound and often uncomfortable call to action, a reminder that life is finite and that the choices we make matter deeply. When we experience regret, it is often because we sense that we have fallen short of living a life aligned with our deepest values, purpose, or potential. This feeling is not merely about past mistakes, but about the urgent need to reorient ourselves toward creating a life worth living. Regret highlights the gap between where we are and where we could be, prompting us to reflect on what truly matters and what kind of legacy we want to leave behind. This call invites us to move beyond passive existence and to embrace responsibility for crafting a meaningful and fulfilling life. It encourages us to prioritize goals that resonate with our authentic selves rather than fleeting pleasures or external expectations. The pain of regret becomes a motivational force that drives us to pursue growth, connection, and contribution. It pushes us to develop discipline, to set boundaries, and to engage in the hard work necessary for transformation. Moreover, regret reminds us that a life worth living is not free from challenges or setbacks, but rather one where we face adversity with courage and learn from it. It encourages resilience and perseverance, teaching us that the path to fulfillment often requires sacrifice and sustained effort. By heeding regret's call, We choose to live intentionally, making decisions that reflect our values and aspirations. In this way, regret functions as a catalyst for positive change. It moves us from despair to hope, from passivity to action. By responding to regret with purpose and determination, we create a life marked by authenticity and meaning, reducing the likelihood of future remorse. Ultimately, regret urges us to seize the opportunity we have to live fully and create a legacy worthy of our time on this earth.